Okay, moving on to the front wheel. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to loosen up the lugs and then I'll jack it up, and at that point I will show you the brakes. Okay, so moving on to the front brake. So the first thing we're going to do is remove this pin right here. So it's a cotter pin, and what we'll do is we're going to pull that out, then pull out the pin itself, and we're going to go from there. So to pull it out, all I'm using is a pair of needle nose pliers. Pin comes right out, and then I can just push on, well, I should be able to just push on this pin, or I can wiggle it while putting pressure. So I can put the needle nose pliers here, wiggle it back and forth, and push that way at the same time, and the pin will start coming out. So the way that these things are held in is by this right here. It acts as a spring that keeps pressure on the brake pads this way, which keeps them from coming out. So once I get to a certain point, I'll go to the back side here, and I'll just keep turning and pulling at the same time. I'll put my finger on this. Okay. So here's the keeper that sits in here. It acts as a spring kind of, only because it keeps pressure on it. Next thing we want to do is we want to draw the pistons back into here and into here. There's 4 pistons total, 2 here, 2 on the back side. To do that, and you have to be a little bit careful because you don't want to ding your rotors, but these rotors are in really good shape, so I'm going to reuse them. If they were in bad shape, I would replace them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to push by hand just a little bit. Trying to draw the pistons back. Once I get it to a certain spot, now I can put a little bit of pressure on the bottom, a little bit on the top, and then I'll keep going back and forth until they're fully seated against the back of the caliper. And I'll show you what that looks like. So as you can see right now, I have all that clearance in there. Those are pushed back. As you can see, the pads are worn, but they're not completely gone, even though they're close. So the next thing we want to do is clean up the parts. To do that, I'm using some brake cleaner. I'm just going to spray a little bit on there, flip it over, spray a little bit. Then I'm going to scrub a little bit with my wire brush to knock off any debris that's on here. Spray a little bit more cleaner on there. So as you can see, it starts to come clean. I'm not scrubbing super hard. A little bit of pressure. I'm just trying to knock off all the debris. And it's really just baked on brake dust. So something like that. It's pretty good. I'll wipe it down, make sure it's really actually clean. And the back side. Do the same thing. So again, if these are damaged somehow, if it's broken, if it's cracked, chipped, then of course you'd want to replace them. In this case, they're in good shape. So we're going to keep it as is. Get the pin here. Okay, so that's all wiped down, good to go. The pin, go ahead and just wipe down, or the cotter pin I should say. Just go ahead and wipe it down. Okay, now on the back side of this inside pad, we have 2 shims. We're going to reuse these shims. As you can see, they're dirty, so we're going to go ahead and clean those too. Same process. still going to show signs where things have been touching, but as far as debris that's sticking up off the surface, it's non-existent. So it's a little bit shiny, that's where it's been touching, but it is clean. Let's do the second one here. Now all of my shims are clean. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray some cleaner inside of here where the pistons are. Then we're gonna open up our brakes. So these are Brembo as well. And of course I'll keep you guys posted because I've never used Brembo pads, so this will be an experience for me as well. So this would be the assembly. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put grease on all of the touching parts. So back of the pad and this piece, here and here, so then there, then on here, then I'm gonna put some on the ears here, and I'll put some on the pin as well. And what I'm using is CRC brake and caliper grease. Used it for a long time, it works well, so that's what we're going with. We have this, just like that. So we're gonna put grease on everywhere that it's gonna touch. So back here. Of course on this face. And we're going to take this one, we're going to put it right over the top there, align the hole. And we're going to add grease to back here where it's touching. So this is the area where it's touching the calipers. We're going to put some on the ears. Now I'm not getting any onto the pad, just on the ears. That way it helps it to slide in and hopefully not seize up or gain corrosion or anything like that. Then we're going to slide it in like so, just like a glove. Next thing we need to do is we're going to grease up the pin. So we're not putting a ton on there because we can. We'll put some on the back side here. Don't need a ton. Okay. So anywhere where it's going to be touching, that's where we put the grease. Then all you have to do is, and hopefully this is picking it up, you slide the pin in from the back side. I'm going to turn it so I can see the hole. So this is the hole for, hopefully you can see it. That's the hole for your cotter pin. So I want it facing out, that way we can see it when it goes all the way through. I'm gonna push down on this just a pinch. So it'll go in. Then we're gonna take our cotter pin. Because we turned it, now we can just push it right into the hole. That's it, we're done. Now, to reinstall the wheel, just gonna line up the lug nuts as best as possible. Then we'll get a couple of lug nuts started. So all we're doing is, I'm gonna get these finger tight. Then we're gonna let down the vehicle. And then again, we're not trying to super tighten these things. We just want them tight enough to where the wheel has no chance of falling off, but not so tight that we're stretching out the threads. Actually makes it weaker because now you have stretched out bolts, which creates more stress. Now I'll just go back over them, make sure that they're tight. All right, so that's it. So before we take this thing anywhere, we're gonna pump the brakes multiple times, make sure that the brakes pump up. Since we pushed all the calipers in, or the pistons on all the calipers in, we need to make sure that the brakes are seated against the rotors. Then we're gonna take it for a road test, and then we're gonna seat the brakes.